Hello, everybody. How's it going tonight? So the date is Tuesday, April the 14th. It's about 9:40 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we're going to do a technical analysis on Bitcoin. So it's been a while since I've looked at the market on a very big picture because I've been more so focused on the volatility of a day trade. I hope everyone has been doing incredibly well. I hope you guys have been more so cautious than anything. So today we're going to take a look at the market from the perspective of both a bull and a bear. So I need to make sure you guys are reminded that regardless of what anyone says, the best decisions to make is always the ones that you formulate yourself. And I always remind people that you have to think of it from the perspective of, for example, one source, okay? If you only get information from one specific source, then your opinion might be very biased or skewed. So it's always important to get the perspective of different people. For example, reading multiple newspapers or watching multiple news stations, reading multiple forums. This way you get a broader view of the general market, and you can also formulate a definitive decision on your end as well. You have to be confident with the decisions you make. And regardless of what anyone says, we have to be reminded of the psychology behind trading, right? And how we deal with the emotional aspects of how we're affected by other people's opinions. So make sure that even though, guys, I admit that I'm wrong, I've got no problem doing that whatsoever, right? I think that the best traders will be very humble about their losses because they understand that to be a better trader, we have to ensure that we treat this as a continuous learning process and we focus on losing as much as we focus on winning because it's both of our successes and our failures that allow us to learn from the mistakes. And we have to make sure we have a game plan. I highly recommend that everybody you get a pen and a paper or an Excel or some sort of way to document your journey for trading. Evaluate every single position that you're in. Write down the risk to reward. Write down why you went into it. Write down the reasons why you shouldn't have gone into it. Every time you lose a trade, review how you could have been much better. This way, when you're faced with the similar types of situations, you can easily try to remember the mistakes that you made or even reference them before so you may not make the similar mistakes and you can always continuously learn to develop further skills. So yes, guys, I do admit that I was calling a top, 1600, 7K, right? If here we are at 8K, but that doesn't matter because at the end of the day, as long as we have some sort of plan for when things go the opposite way, we're always going to be prepared for these situations that go against our way. And that's also what risk to reward is, okay? I'm going to remind everybody just a very simple thing about risk to reward, okay? Here we go right here. It's been a very long time since I brought this up with you guys, okay? Now we're gonna talk about rolling a dice, just as a very quick reminder, okay? Rolling a dice. Actually, tossing a coin, let's say. Tossing a coin, heads or tails, okay? Now, if I said to you this right here, okay? Every time you win, I give you 100 bucks. Every time you lose, you give me $100, right? So obviously the chances are 50-50, just based on two different sides, right? Heads or tails. We all agree on that. So if you call heads, for example, actually, you know what? Let's just say every time you get heads, okay? We'll just say that to make it easier. Every time you get tails, you give me $100. So obviously the probability is 50-50, right? Or 50%. Now, what this means is a risk to reward denoted by RR of 1 to 1. Okay, that's what it means, okay? Because you're giving me 100 if you lose, and if you win, I give you 100. It's a 1 to 1 ratio, right? So let's say you played a game over 10 games, and we'll just assume it's 50-50, right? The chances of winning is 50. So over 10 games, you may have won 5 tosses, and you may have lost 5 tosses, right? So what do you win? You win a total of 5 wins at 100 each, which is equal to $500 profit. Now you lose also a total of 5 losses at 100 each equals 500, right? So now what is the net profit? The net profit is 500 for your wins minus your 500 for your losses, which is equals a net profit of 0, right? Well, that's not good. right? You don't want to keep taking 50-50 chances all the time to only win a net profit of 0. Now, we're going to go through another scenario for you, okay? This is honestly a very basic concept in trading, in my opinion, right? But it is also incredibly important because it is what defines and makes or breaks a trader. And I just have to remind you guys this because it's extremely important for the development of your skills. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do this, okay? I'm just going to change this around. Now what we're going to do is every time you win, you actually get $200, okay? Every time you win, you get $200. But every time you lose, you give me $100. So now the risk to reward ratio is actually 2 to 1, which means you have a chance to win $200 and I've got a chance to win $100. We're going to leave percentage aside, okay? So then if we think about it from this perspective over time, or sorry, I meant to say over 10 games, okay? And five tosses, now you're actually winning 5 wins at $200 each, which is equal to actually $1,000, okay? So that means that you're also going to lose a total of 5 losses at $100 each, which is equal to $500 of loss. So your net profit is each actually going to equal $1,000 minus $500, which is equal net profit of 500 bucks. Okay? So let me rephrase this. If you win 5 games at 200 each, that means that you would win $1,000. If you lose 5 games at 100 each, you're losing $500. That means that there's a net profit of $1,000 minus 500, which is $500, right? So this way, if you think of risk to reward over time, and if you think of this general concept, okay? I know a lot of you guys might not like this concept, but it's a very general idea, and that's how I treat the market. I treat the market as something that we try to be profitable over time, and we don't care about the single losses. That is why I need to remind you firmly that I don't really care, guys. If I'm calling a top at 7,000 or 7,200 and I'm losing 6%, okay, let's just say I'm losing 6%. Honestly, what did he do? In my personal opinion, I don't really care too much about that because over time, I know that if I adopt and focus on entering positions with high probability and a good risk to reward ratio, we're going to be profitable over time. So yeah, I did lose a few thousand. I don't mind looking at you straight in the eye and saying that on short positions. But guess what, guys? I ended up going long eventually to make up the net profit or net loss. And then I ended up going short actually around 8,025 to almost 7,600 on a huge position, and it yielded over 5 figures. So when you think of it over time, not really too worried. Okay, guys, let's get into this technical analysis eventually, or finally rather. Let's take a look at this. Now, I want you guys to know right here, this is the high. I'm going to go to settings if you don't have it there. I'm just going to say visible over mouse over. There you go. So now if you look right here, okay, this right here is the high. I don't have it here. OHLC will show you, okay? So the high right there, look on this candle right there, okay? Now look right there, the high. The high right here is 85.06, okay? I'm going to move it over. And I'm also going to write down the right number. So it's 85.06. This is the resistance, guys. Make note of this. We're trending on every single time frame, basically getting higher highs, right? So what we want to do this May, if we can, the bulls need to break this resistance right here for the monthly, okay? We're basically trending on every single time frame bullishly right now, except for the monthly, right? And the reason why we want to break this is because it will almost guarantee, in my opinion, that the histogram will actually cross over to the negative side. Now, what we don't want, right? So the bulls absolutely want to cross over to the higher side. Now, what the bears want to do is they want to reject them right there because then this histogram will make an attempt towards up on the monthly and then come back down. There are a lot of people that want to buy Bitcoin at very cheap prices. So in my opinion right now, I'm on Bitfinex, by the way. I guess it doesn't really matter anymore because Bitfinex has got tons of volume and there's good news. They've raised like $1 billion basically, and lots of rumors have been dispelled. So I'm confident to be on Bitfinex for now, okay? So once again, monthly is not as bullish as we would like it to be yet because it needs to, one, break that high that I was referring to of 85.16, and two, we would like to cross over to the positive side on the histogram. Okay, now we take a look at the weekly, okay? Weekly is looking phenomenal, I have to admit. Okay, weekly is now looking very ridiculously bullish, guys, okay? We are not only just stepping upwards to the histogram very positively, but there is absolutely no downtrend whatsoever right now from what I see. But we have to be extremely careful. And I'm going to remind you guys of parabolic moves upwards. Parabolic moves upwards are always guaranteed by violent drops down. Now, anybody who thinks that it's going to go up forever, you guys are probably one of the people that bought at a high. Bought at a high, for example, at, 2K when it dropped to 1800. You guys are probably the same people that bought at 5K and then it fell to 3K. You're probably the same people that bought at almost 20K, right? And it fell to 10K. So you guys have to be reminded that nothing goes up forever, and you have to make sure you manage your risk. You have to make sure you understand that just because we get a huge green candle, okay, on the daily, right? Take a look right here. Just because we get a huge green candle doesn't mean that the next day is going to be bullish. Just because we get a huge green candle does not mean that the next day will be bullish. Just because we get a huge green candle, once again, does not guarantee the next day will be bullish. I don't know how many times I need to say that, but I need you guys to really understand. For what I'm finding is that Twitter is kind of like Reddit now, especially with a lot of time that has passed, right? Well, Twitter tends to be more of a place where people come to argue their opinion, is what I'm finding. So I'm not here to debate, guys, right? I'm just here to point out facts and to get people to understand that caution is what's going to protect your money, okay? Not large sizes. Large sizes is not going to make you more money if you cannot protect it. So please be extremely careful when we're reaching these types of highs, because myself, I'm absolutely wondering, where is this top? Are we going to get close to it very soon? Leaving everything aside, Elliott wave, etc. Right now, we're very bullish, but we have to understand, guys, that this drop is going to come. Whether you guys like it or not, this drop is going to come. Please know that when we reach this high of a rally, which is over 200% in less than a month so far, there will be some sort of correction eventually. The demand will eventually run out when we reach excuse me, when we reach a point where people just don't not value, but the demand is so high that people just don't want to buy at these prices. We're reaching key volume points from the past that have defined a resistance point. So if I look at it on the 2-day, just to show you guys, very bullish. Next few days, what could possibly happen is we can get a golden crossover on the 2-day. Whenever golden crossovers happen, it's generally very bullish. For example, right here, okay? A lot of people anticipated a golden crossover, but what I can guarantee you is that as soon as this guy, actually people probably anticipated it, okay? As soon as this right here happened, I'm sure that people probably anticipated it and they started to accumulate. Especially after this one, yeah, people started trading it on a higher range than that as soon as it broke above this high right here. So on a 2-day, if you look at it, we're very bullish. We're about to get a golden crossover, probably, I'm guessing, the 21st. But the thing about a 2-day that I find is the 1-day people will buy into that crossover, but the 2-day, right, sometimes there's a dip first. And that could be very scary. So I always caution everybody. What we're getting, for example, on a 10-hour chart, okay, guys? A 10-hour chart usually means this. I will show you guys from the tweet that I wrote earlier. So this is what a tweezer pair combination is, okay? I found it on a 10-hour, and they can be found in any time frame. Tweezer pairs are both tops and bottoms that can indicate a trend change on higher time frames. The candlestick pair pattern is identified when two candles are almost identical in wick rejection and the body size. The first green candle shows a strong move in the current direction, while the second candle shows a complete reversal for the pair or for the prior day's price action. This is generally a pair that states caution. So we see it right here very clearly, almost identical wicks basically identical bodies as well, with volume also heavily declining on the actual next few bars. So because of that, it makes me wonder, are we ready to short it right now? We're also not really breaking to higher highs quite yet for RSI. So on a 4 hour, right? Actually on a 3 hour, what I'm seeing is a crossover here already. And with this crossover, we're going to be wondering how far down is it going to go. So what I can say to people right now is watch this range. Okay, this is the resistance right here, around 80.40, 80.50, those ranges. And this is the break point where we're going to get a lower low. Okay, now if we do this, okay, if we just break out of it slightly, I'm not going to go long on it. I'm going to long on it when we test this resistance again, and I will long to 8,500 or maybe 84, and this will be my long position. Okay, we're going to go over both bull and bear scenarios. Give me a good rejection wick down, and then I get my RR probably around 7950 is what I'm guessing, and I will shoot for a high first of around 8,400 for a very, very nice about 2.29 risk to reward. So that's my first target. But of course, if I go higher to 85, it's more aggressive. Who knows if we'll get there? But make sure that you guys are laddering into strength even when you're closing your position. You guys know how I'm very aggressive and I try to look for bearishly diverging RSI or bullishly diverging RSI to start laddering. What I always do is I allocate a range for where I'm laddering to short or laddering to go long. And what I also do, for day trading positions, they're not that big, guys. Like as you've seen me play 10 to 20K, but of course I'm playing on some other things that are more discreet for my own privacy. It's not fair for me to disclose them. So what I always have recommended to people for the past 2 years is if you're playing a bigger position size, also scale out of it. Make sense? So when you were into strength, but you're starting to see some small signs of bearishly diverging RSI, I usually, on big positions, will scale out of it slowly at specific price points. Just like how when I'm also shorting, I'll scale out of it slowly as well. I always like to make sure that I've got some house money and I'm going to be guaranteed some profits. This way, if you're actually scaling out of it, first of all, your risk is actually severely reduced. Your break-even point is severely higher or lower as well, depending if you short or go long. And you're just basically much more confident because you are taking some of the house money, you're guaranteeing some of your profits, you're banking some into your account there, so you can perhaps add more to your size on a dip, right? Or add more to your size on a short where you're confident that it could be a peak. So that's always general advice that I like to give people. And honestly, right here, guys, I'm going to look for a short position as well. Probably going to hunt for a few more bearishly diverging RSI. And I'm going to also start looking at the short and the long tables. Actually, you know what? Let's look at it right now. So BTC USD short. BTC USD short. There we go. So the shorts right now are at about 21K. Let's take a look at fine detail right here. They have severely dropped, of course, right, since May the 9th there. Shorts are starting to go up a little bit. Not that much, though. I mean, we've only gained about 8% of shorts thus far. I mean, for all we know, shorts might even drop all the way back down to about the 7K regions. So this is not really telling too much right now. Let's take a look at the longs as well. Longs are, it's racking up, but of course a lot of people have been liquidating their long positions already. If you take a look over here, since the 14th, a lot of people have been liquidating their longs, about 8% long increase, 8% short increase as well. Let's go coin market cap and see how everything has been looking thus far. Market is looking very juicy right now at a $245 billion market cap. I've always been looking at a favorable number such as $300 billion, okay? Let's take a look at the 24-hour volume here as well. 24-hour volume has been significantly increased, I'm sure, in the past few weeks in general. So we take a look at the volume, right? Take a look at April, guys. We're talking 12 billion. We're talking about 18 million, and then now we're at 28 million. And then yesterday we ended up finishing off at $32 million. And right now the trending 24-hour volume is about 32 million. Ethereum has been a very heavy hitter, and also XRP as well. If you guys have noticed, XRP did more than 20% in the past 24 hours, which is phenomenal. If you guys, I just want to keep you guys up to date with what's going on with the market in general as well, okay? So here's Ethereum right here. Ethereum has been just on fire. Take a look at this, guys. For example, it has moved up 11% very, very recently. And just in the past 15 minutes, it's already moved up 15% as well. And if you guys take a look at XRP, it is by far the #1 moving high market cap coin. For example, since 3 p.m., it's got up about 18% already. And also, since 6 p.m. yesterday, in 24 hours, it has gone up about 40%, guys. That's ridiculous, 40%, guys. That is quite awesome. So right now, let's get back to Bitcoin, okay? I gave you guys the bullish scenario ready and exactly what type of resistance we could be facing and where as well. The day right now could probably end up finishing with a doji, in my opinion. So if I go to a 4-hour, okay? Let's go to a little bit of a lower time frame. We're just going to play it by ear, okay? So let's just say I get more of a bearish candle. If the 4-hour ends up closing with a really nasty doji, it might even be signal for me to short. Now, I don't always recommend laddering, when you're trying to find bearishly diverging RSI to short, right? I don't always recommend I never recommend catching the top, to be quite honest. Okay, let's face it. If you're trying to catch the top, if you're trying to catch the bottom, chances are you're going to lose a lot of money over time. So it's always good to wait for confirmation as well. Despite me being very aggressive, keep in mind that these are strategies that's not exactly intended for everybody because it takes a lot of skill and experience. So what I always recommend is look for some sort of confirmation, right? So then if you get confirmation, for example, if I go into a short position right here, so if I go into a short position around, let's say 7,900-ish, get a stop a little bit higher than there for about 1.4 loss, I could be even targeting, right, first of all, this low right there, okay, around 76.50, and this is going to yield me about a 3.45 risk to reward. Not bad at all. 1.39% possible loss, 4.81 possible gain. I think that's very, very reasonable to me. So in my opinion, I'm not sure about a longer term prediction, guys, but what I can say is that we got some really good risk to reward setups right now. We have to identify that we're reaching some pretty dangerous zones right now. Look at the RSI, okay? RSI is about 88, and whenever we get to around these ranges, you guys know what happens. Do I need to spell it out for you? No, I honestly don't, right? Because if you just take a look right here, every time we surpass or even get close to this point, we end up violently dropping. Take a look. It has been like this for years. Right here, that was a big drop. Yep. Right here was a huge drop, okay? Right here went from 300 to 160. Right here went from 495 to 300. Here went from 785 to 564. So you guys get what I'm saying, right? There are resistances for RSI as well. And you got to make sure that you acknowledge and respect this. Once again, I'm not saying it's going to drop, guys. I'm just playing I Spy with my little eye, and I want you guys to make sure that you don't forget the basics when it comes to trading. So guys, to summarize, the bullish view, we break around 80.50, and we hopefully go up to 8,200, bounce off of 80.50 again, and then we shoot for around 8,400, test that monthly high resistance. Hopefully we'll get a correction for this next week of May, and then maybe we'll try to break out of 8,500 again. And also, if we get some more bearish candles, which we're starting to find a lot of already, we can find a short-term support around 76.50 at first. But realistically, if we drop, we'll end up finding support in these regions over here. So there are many different support points that could hold very short time, and it could be very favorable to the day traders. So anyways, have a great night, guys. Thank you very much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys giving me a few days off, and I'll be back to provide you with updates more down the road. Have a great night. Bye now.